Hello, boys and girls. My name is Mike Kelly, Real Illusion Forum. I'm sorry this is coming out so dark. I'm using OBS, and on my screen, this is not that dark. Matter of fact, it looks fine. So, not sure why it's coming out so dark on your own. We'll keep exploring that. Anyway, what I'm going to do today is show you some things about gloves and body elements. This is a cyborg I've been working on for this friend of mine, and I skipped it. I didn't show the blender part of the portion. I never usually show blender because I'm not a blender guy, and there's a lot better blender tutorials out there. But I thought I would show this part of it. So what we have here essentially, I'm going to get rid of all the shell shapes that are surrounding this character because essentially what his part, he's trying to get this rig here, which is a rig, and it's actually you can see it's clothing. I don't know if you can tell that there's that little clothing icon there. This is rigged as clothing. Now, this would be very similar if this was a super suit. So, for example, if this was a suit that fit this character perfectly, same thing applies. When you go to pose a character like this, when you have a full body thing, this is a full body suit. Think of this is clothing. This isn't a rig. This is clothing. So if you have a full body suit that's has clothing on it, you'll notice. See, the hands aren't clenched like the boxer's hands are. It's a boxing pose. And the reason for that is that because this is rigged as clothing using the default rig, default rigs everything perfectly except for the hands. The hands always have to be rigged as gloves. So you might say to me, Mike, well, then why don't I just select? Why don't I go in to select this and then just go to skin weights? And then I'll just go ahead and make this whole thing gloves. So, I'm sorry, that's not what skin weights. I'm sorry, reweight. I just played a lot of tennis today. Transfer skin weights. Why didn't I just go ahead, since this doesn't have the hands as gloves, why didn't I go ahead and make it gloves? Okay, so go ahead and apply that to that whole rig there, and that way, then it'll deform properly as gloves, you'll say. And I'll say, yes, you are correct. The gloves part of it, because it will match up to where those hands are, it will deform properly as gloves. As long as it's taking a long time because it's trying to assign all of these other things as gloves as well. And that's you might say, well, if the gloves work, why doesn't the whole rest of the body work? The problem is the whole rest of the body can't be gloves because it won't conform to the rest of the bones. As you'll see in a moment, once this thing gets finished, even on my very fast machine, it's taking a long time to do this process. Okay, there we go. So now if we go into pose and we go to this checking pose again, you'll see that the hands actually are good. Well, even the hands aren't real good because there's other parts of it. But in any case, the gloves, obviously you can't do it that way. So that doesn't work. So what do we need to do is we need to split this apart in the gloves and the rest of the body. The rest of the body will conform just fine as long as we split this apart. So how do we do that? The first thing we want to do is export this and use Blender to do that. You really can't do it in here. In the past, I've shown this with super suits where we made a copy of this, and part of the copy was gloves, and then we hid all the faces. That's not really the way to do it. What you really want to do is send this to Blender, okay? So what we do is we go to File, and we go to Export, go to FBX, it's the clothed character, and we can use the Blender preset. Embed textures is fine, we don't really care. We want to do the mesh only. We don't need any action, and we want to use the T-pose. The T-pose will match everything up perfectly with this. And we want to delete the hidden faces. We do this. I've got the problem is the shell is hidden here. If you see this, I've hid the faces on this character so that all you see is her face. All the other faces are hidden. She actually exists. If we go into edit the mesh, you'll see that all the faces are actually there for her, but we hid them, okay? So unfortunately, when we export this, those faces should disappear. They don't. I think that's a bug. But anyway, it doesn't really matter because I export it like that, and then I go into Blender, somewhere here, Blender. And in Blender, we're going to bring this in again. Let's do File, New, General, don't save. Delete this cube. We're going to go to File and Import. I've already exported as FBX. And I did do it with, like I said, with the faces for the character hidden, and it shouldn't export them, but it does anyway. So that's a bug. Okay, so there we are. There's the faces. They're all there. And so what we want to do here is we just want to work on that cyborg thing, that mesh there. So everything else we can delete. So we go there first there. I'm selecting all of them. I'm pressing the X key because that's how you delete things in Blender. And now we got the cyborg. Now, the cyborg shape is still attached to all those bones. So the next thing we need to do is we need to disattach it. So we go to Object and we go to Parent and we go to Clear and keep the transformation. If you clear the parent without keeping the transformation, the thing will fly apart. See, it flies apart there, so you can't do that. So you go to Object, because it's going back to the default places where it was. So we want to clear and keep the transformation. So now it's not attached to those bones anymore. But the other thing we have to do is go here to modify our properties. It's still got that armature property there in there. So the other thing you have to do is you have to go ahead and apply it. If I didn't, again, thing would fly apart if I didn't once I remove the armature. And now once you've done all that, this thing is its own being. So now we can actually go ahead and delete the armature. So now we have just this cyborg shape, okay? There's this thing. And so now we want to delete those hands out of it. Actually, what we really want to do is make those hands separate. We want to make them gloves. So go into edit mode. And because we're in edit mode, we want to make sure we have the X-ray version on. Why does that mean? That means that we're going to select something, it'll select the faces that are behind that we can't see at the same time. So do this, select those hands. I'm holding down the Shift key, and I'm going to select the other hands, like that. And now I'm pressing the P key, which then separates those items by the selection. So now I've actually created two different items. I've got the hands only, which is here, so we'll change those into hands. And then over here, I have the body. So if I take the hands off, there's the body. Okay, so now we want to export these as FBX and then apply them into IClone. So I've just got the body selected. Actually, I don't have it selected. I'm going to go out of edit mode. Okay, now the body is selected. So I'll go to File, Export, FBX, and we want to make it, I want to put it in exports here. And I'm going to put this into body, and I want to do selected objects only. I'm only exporting that selected object. And then the next thing I want to do is turn that off, turn the hands on, and select the hands, File, Export, FBX, and again, now we might make this, whoops, hands, and select it only, export. Yay! Okay, now we go back to here, and now we can go to create accessory. These always have to come in as accessories here. And we go to exports, and we're going to go to, we'll do the hands first. And because it's in that T-pose, notice it just matches up perfectly with where we exported it. So that's fine. Those are the hands. Same thing, we're going to create accessory, and we're going to take the body. And again, the body's going to match up perfectly to the body that's already there. So now we can take out that body, and you can see we got that. So we can actually delete that body. So now we have the hands and body as accessories. Notice they've got the eyeglass symbol there. Hands and body as accessories. So we go to hands, we go to transfer skin weights, and we make those gloves and apply. Close. And then we go to the body. Notice that make it gloves. In the body, we're going to transfer skin weights, and we use the default. Default is for everything else other than gloves and shoes, basically. Applies that. And a little moment here. We close that, and now we're all set. So now we go to the base. We go to pose. We go to checking pose. And so now we have, you notice everything matches up perfectly, and those hands also deform now in the gloves. So now we've created gloves, and we've created a body suit, essentially. And you could do the same thing if this was like a real body suit, so you could split it apart into the gloves and the rest of the body. You can do anything you want that way. So that's a way of using Blender to take something that's like essentially a piece of clothing out of here, edit it in Blender, and then bring it back into IClone and as an accessory, create an accessory, and then transfer the skin weights and make it back in the clothing again. So hopefully this helps, and we will see you around the forums.